What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Talking Sports Podcast right here on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. Look who's back. Look who's back. It's been a couple, more than a couple months.
Probably 4+ months.
4+
half a year,
months.
Maybe.
Yeah, since JR decided to say screw you to everyone that listens and decided to not do the podcast anymore. But he still does a lot of stuff behind scenes. All the thumbnails when you guys click on the video, that's him. All the graphics you see on X and on Instagram, that is him, because I don't know how to do that. So appreciate that. And speaking of X and Instagram, follow us on social media at Talking Sports PD on X and on Instagram. Like I said, all our graphics, all our pics, all our clips from these episodes are on all these platforms. So make sure you guys check that out. And then Underdog Fantasy, use code TSB. The big game is coming up this weekend. We'll be talking about that in a little bit here. But if you're an Apple Podcast, if you're on Spotify and YouTube, head over to Underdog Fantasy. Use code TSP. They sent me a huge list of an email today. I didn't read the full email, but there's a lot of stuff going on great promo there, Peter. But a lot of stuff going on over there on Underdog Fantasy. They sent me a list of stuff that you guys can sign up for using the code. And just if you're already on Underdog Fantasy, there's a ton of stuff you guys can use, a ton of promos, ton of fun stuff for the big game on Sunday. And make sure you guys use code TSB if you have not signed up for Underdog Fantasy. And before we get into the Super Bowl, I talked about this earlier this week. Hopefully you guys listened to it. If you have not, the Luka Doncic trade, he was traded to obviously the Lakers. Anthony Davis was traded to the Mavericks, and I broke it down in about a 15-minute episode. So if you're an Apple Podcast, Spotify, or YouTube, head over to that. There's no timetable on that episode. You can listen to it whenever. So go check that out. Jerry, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready to do it.
So it's the Super Bowl. It's Chiefs, Eagles. It's a little bit painful for me because my football team was a game shy, 3 points shy of being in this and me talking about it. So I'm not super interested in the Super Bowl. Great way to promote this episode, Peter. But we're going to talk about JR's team was not really that close. So
I'm never in the Super Bowl talk. So
JR might be a little less biased than I am and who I'm rooting for in the Super Bowl. But before we get into it right now on FanDuel, and we're recording on Wednesday night, you guys are going to be listening to this. It comes out Thursday into Friday into Saturday. So don't get mad at me if the spread changes. That's not my fault. The Chiefs are minus 1.5 point favorite right now. So we have a really close game, which is awesome for, I guess, you and I when we have nobody really rooting for. Chiefs are minus 120 on the money line. Eagles are plus 102, and the over-under right now is 48.5. So, JR, we got no topics. We're just going to talk about this. First thing that kind of comes to mind when you think of or when you're looking at this Chiefs-Eagles game that we saw 2 years ago.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously we know the Chiefs aren't the same Chiefs, and people have been saying that all year. Like, they're not – Mahomes isn't throwing for like 400 yards every game.
Yeah.
It's a different type of team. However, they always play up to their opponent, no matter – like Mahomes last game, let me bring that up. He only threw for 215 yards. He had 2 touchdowns, but like they play in the Bills. Bills a high scoring team. Like they always, even if it's not Mahomes, someone will step up. They always play up to their opponents. So that's the thing. Like, you could say they're not playing super like to their potential or to what we've seen them just slinging the ball like the old days. But they could always sneak out a win against a really good team. And then on the Eagles side, like they're just running. They were running through teams this playoffs, literally running because Saquon has been going off. So I think that's going to be like the main X factor. Of course, would be just can Saquon Barkley continue getting it going, and can the Chiefs stop him? Because I think that's what ultimately what the game's kind of going to come down to, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the Chiefs didn't do a great job against James Cook. He had 13 carries for 85 yards and 2 touchdowns.
And then Josh Allen ran for like 70 yards.
Yeah, shame on the Bills for not using freaking James Cook more, and that's a topic for a different day. But yeah, he had 13 carries for 85 yards and 2 touchdowns. And James Cook's an elite running back. He's really good at football, but Saquon Barkley is much better, or Saquon Barkley is a step up to what James Cook is, and James Cook is definitely no slouch at all over there in Buffalo. But
and then that offensive line as well on the Eagles side.
It's dynamic, it's physical, and I feel like they always have a good offensive line.
Yeah, they've had it for the past 6
You
months.
lose future Hall of Famer Jason Kelsey, and it doesn't really
Nothing
matter.
changes that much.
Yeah, they know what they're doing on the offensive line. But you mentioned the Chiefs, and you mentioned they're not a high flying offense. They have weapons like Xavier Worthy's dynamic. Hollywood Brown's still coming along, and obviously DeAndre Hopkins is not Houston Texans DeAndre Hopkins, but he's still a solid receiver. And Travis Kelce probably had his worst regular season in about 5 or 6 years. So they don't have the names. Pacheco hasn't been great since he came back from injury, but the Chiefs, and the most frustrating thing as a Bills fan, and if you hate the Chiefs in general, they find a way to win, and they find a way to make plays. If it's Travis Kelce over the middle of the field and on a 3rd and 10, right? And he's had a really good postseason. He's kind of come along in this postseason. He had a good game against Houston. But, Jared, they make plays when they have to make a play.
They have to. That's literally like the DNA of the Chiefs. Like, well, they're down by 7 touchdowns, 2 minutes left. Like, they haven't been playing well, but they'll make the plays at the end of the game.
And this is the type of game, and going back to the AFC Championship game, like when I was watching the Bills play, I'm like, you got to score on every possession. And it's not even a good dynamic Chiefs offense. It's just what they do in the postseason and how dynamic they are in the postseason. And Andy Reid is just an incredible football coach, right? Like, he out schemes guys. He makes coaches that are really good. Sean McDermott, he made Nick Sirianni 2 years ago, right? Like, out schemed Kyle Shanahan last year in the Super Bowl. Like, those are really elite NFL coaches that have been to Super Bowls, that have won football games, that probably would have a Super Bowl if Andy Reid didn't exist. And he out schemes you and he out coaches you, right? And that is such a tall task for this Eagles defense. And just like Eagles secondary is great. Like Cooper DeJean, Darius Slay, Quinion Mitchell have been phenomenal. And we saw that in the NFC Championship game against Jaden Daniels. But this is different, right? Like Jaden Daniels had a great rookie year. He had a great postseason. Patrick Mahomes is different. Like, this is a different level of play that the Eagles are going to see. And you think the Chiefs, like you said, you think the Chiefs are kind of down and out, and all of a sudden something crazy happens, right? Mahomes evades a sack, or Travis Kelce's open in the middle of the field, or Xavier Worthy's just streaking down the field wide open. Like, you have guys that show up in big moments, and the Chiefs always find a way. Another reason they're frustrating if your team is playing against them.
And I also think something that, you take for granted watching the Chiefs, like, they don't, like, as a football team, they don't go down big. Like, if you want to beat the Chiefs, you kind of have to come out and just punch them in the mouth, which no team, like, I don't think has ever done that I remember. Like,
the Buccaneers in that Super Bowl a couple years ago, and they smoked them.
Okay, yeah.
But to be granted, the Chiefs had no offensive line.
Yeah.
But they did punch him in the mouth in the sense they just got after Mahomes.
So that's like,
that's one way to do it.
Way you said it. But, like, you can't get a touchdown, go up 7-0, get a field goal, 10-0, and then kind of like teeter around that line. Like, okay, we're not capitalizing. You got to keep scoring on them. Like you said, you can feel like you got to score every possession.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can't keep it 10, 7-point games. It's basically, they're going to tie it up, and they're going to tie it up. So you just got to keep scoring. And that's the one thing with the Eagles is they're so difficult to beat too, because if they get out early, they got that passing game. They got A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Goddard. But then if they're up, their best part of their offense is running the ball, and that's just going to emphasize running the ball. And they all give Saquon 30 carries. So, like, that's the interesting part is, like, Chiefs don't go down big, but the Eagles are the team that, like, keep pounding it and make you go down big, because it's just how their offense is set up. Because when they're down, their passing offense isn't as good. But when they're in rhythm, they get out early, they'll just run the ball the whole rest of the game. They're totally fine with that.
The Chiefs have the best player in this game, right, in Patrick Mahomes. But the Eagles have that one player in Saquon Barkley that can dictate the entirety of the football game. Kind of like what you just alluded to. They can control the clock, they can run the ball, and they can maintain possession, and they can control the game, and they can play the game how they want to play. Talk about the Eagles here. Because how good Saquon Barkley is, right? If you watch the divisional round against the Rams, right, a couple huge runs. If you watch the NFC Championship game against Commanders, the first drive of the game, and he just breaks off for a touchdown, and you're just like, oh boy,
here we go. Back the next possession, I'm pretty sure, and scored.
Yeah, like he's dynamic. And look, the Eagles have not seen a defense in the postseason that the Chiefs are. The Chiefs are a good defensive team.
Defensive line too.
Very good defensive line. They're a very tough defense. Like nothing against the Packers, nothing against the Rams, nothing against Commanders. The Chiefs defense is a step above, right? Like this is going to be a really tough test for the Eagles. And one thing that the Bills didn't always work, but you have to do it. You have to be aggressive. Like you have to be ultra aggressive. The good thing is the Eagles are a super aggressive team. Nick Sirianni is a super aggressive coach. Sometimes in the regular season, Eagles fans were clamoring for him to be less aggressive because he kind of got to a point where he was just being dumb at times. Mm-hmm. This is the game where I'm not saying to be dumb. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying 4th and 2 at midfield, you're going for it. Like the Bills did it. It didn't always work. Bills went for a couple 2-point conversions, a little less aggressive. That's more of they're trying to it's more of analytical purposes. But the Bills went for a ton of 4th downs. Chiefs stopped them on a couple. Bills got a ton of them as well. Like the Eagles need to do that. If it's Jalen Hurts running the ball, if it's Saquon Barkley running the ball, right? Like you have to be aggressive. Those 4th and 2 punts at midfield because it's the Super Bowl and you don't want to be super aggressive is what you don't want to do. And you see sometimes coaches that are aggressive all year get into a big time game. It doesn't have to be the Super Bowl. It could be AFC Championship or divisional round. And they're like, well, now we're punting. No, like be who you are. There's a reason you are in the Super Bowl. Do what got you here, right? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But you don't want to go after the game.
You might not have a job.
That's true. But if you don't want to go after the game and be like, well, what if we went for this 4th down?
You don't want to.
You don't want to do that. You got to leave everything out on.
So you're saying first drive, Eagles receive the kick, midfield 4th and 2 or 4th and 3. Like so, it's farther enough that you can't just do the push.
Yeah, I got you.
But
go for it.
They don't go for it. Let's say they don't get it. Then you're just playing down to the Chiefs.
I just say I feel like you're going to play down anyway.
That's fair.
That's what you got to think about. You're going to play down. They're going to score anyway. Like you have to score.
You expect them to score every time.
Yeah. I want to ask you a question here, directing to the Eagles. And when I did the preview episodes leading up to the Super Bowl wildcard divisional round and the championship rounds, the one thing that scared me about the Eagles, and I picked them in every game. I actually picked the Rams over the Eagles, but one thing that scared me about the Eagles was Jalen Hurts, right? Because we know how good A.J. Brown is. We know how good Devontae Smith is. We know how good Saquon Barkley is. And we know how good Jalen Hurts is on the ground. His inability at times to be a pure pocket passer and make enough throws when he needs to it scares me. And if you think of the Chiefs, right? Steve Spagnuolo, great defensive coordinator over there. They're going to cue in on Saquon Barkley. It doesn't mean they're going to stop him, but they're going to cue in on him. Do you trust Jalen Hurts if it's a 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, they're behind the sticks, and they know it's a passing down to hit? Do you trust him to make the throws?
Occasionally, I do. Like
that scares me.
Yeah. Like I'm not going to trust him like every time, because then the Chiefs do also have pretty good secondary as well. However, I think I trust him more than I originally. I trust him more because of the receivers he has too. Like, give it like AJ Brown can get open like that. Like, but like you said, it's a 3rd and 8 long, 3rd and long. I'm gonna be honest. I don't trust them, and I would be like nervous as the Eagles fan. I think they have to always play above the sticks. Not above the sticks, but like 3rd and 3, 3rd and shorts kind of. But occasionally, like, I mean, he's not gonna do it every time, but I'd say 35% I trust him that he'll get it 3rd and 8 and beyond.
Yeah, it's just like I think Jalen Hurts is a really good quarterback. I do. I think
and then you also have to factor in, his knee. He hasn't.
That's
why he hasn't been so mobile.
Yeah,
that hurts because when he rolls outside, Devontae Smith always getting open. AJ Brown's gonna poke it upfield.
He was good in the Commanders game. He was good in the Championship game. Yeah. He was not good it wasn't great in the divisional round against the Rams. You could factor in the weather, whatever, and obviously the weather won't be a factor in the Super Bowl on Sunday because it's indoors in New Orleans. But there's always something that I'm hesitant about him, right? Like, because I do think there are going to be times in this game where he struggles to throw the ball, or he's going to be asked to do a couple of things with his arm that I don't know if he's capable of. He has the weapons, he has the O-line, he has the running back to do that. He has everything around him to do that. I don't know if he can, right? Like, he has 3 passing touchdowns in 3 games in the postseason.
Yeah.
It's because they're not asked. He's not asked.
And he's usually like, I feel like the Eagles are always like on the 2, like second and goal kind of.
Yeah, because he does have 4 rushing touchdowns. So he does have 7 rushing. He has 7 touchdowns, right? And 6 points or 6 points, no matter how you get them. And I always argue that no matter what, touchdown's a touchdown. We talk about a quarterback, you gotta talk about all his touchdowns.
Yeah, like you said, 3rd and goal on like the 8-yard line, like that's their worst position they could be in.
Yeah, it's the Super Bowl. Like, he's going to have to make the it's a football game at the end of the day, and stuff sometimes gets completely. People talk about the Super Bowl for 2 weeks, right? And they talk about this, and this. 5 minutes into the game, shit hits the fan, and
you gotta step up.
Not even that, but like everything people have been talking. I always find this funny. Everything like we're just talked about, or people are talking about national media, doesn't matter anymore, right? Like, you Chiefs throw a pick 6 the first drive of the game, and then they punt, right? And the Chiefs are down 14-0, and you're like, oh crap! Like, you and I just talked about them not being down, but they're down now 14-0 because it's a football game. Like, stuff like that. So, and look, if the Eagles do get down at times, right, and they'll say they're down double digits, like, you kind of have to go away from running the ball at times, right? You don't want to, but clock management and all that fun stuff and trying to chase points at that moment, sometimes you have to be a pure pocket passing team. I don't know if the Eagles can fully do that, and that kind of concerns me. But Jared, do you factor a revenge kind of thing here for the Eagles? Because we saw this 2 years ago, and the Eagles were up double digits at some point in that game.
Yeah.
Chiefs came back. Chiefs ended up winning. There was that hold pass interference call when the Chiefs were driving that gave them an automatic first down that set up that field goal with about like 10 seconds left that basically ended the game. That's not called. Chiefs still kick a field goal, but Eagles have time to go. They have adequate time to go get a touchdown or tie the game with a field goal. Obviously, we're not going to get into the ref conversation here because that's just not what we're going to do.
Yeah.
But what do you factor that into? Because we saw it 2 years ago. It's the second time the Eagles can get back to the Super Bowl. Like
I see what you mean. At first I kind of forgot about that, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, if you're a player, you're definitely thinking about that because you were there, especially if you were there, because I know they have some
Hurts, Sirianni, AJ Brown, handful of other guys.
But I think it's less against like, oh, we got to beat the Chiefs, and more of like, like we gotta
let's win a Super Bowl.
We gotta show the world and show, because the Philly fans are crazy, like especially Sirianni, they wanted him out. Like, we got to show them like we're still here, like we're the best team in the league, and especially you do that by beating a team going for a 3-peat. So I would factor that in, but it's mostly like they just want it badly because of all that's happened the past like 2 years, and people kind of like they're good, but like they're the Eagles, like
they also flamed out last year in the postseason. They were either 10-0 or 11-0 last year in the regular season.
After the Jets game, right?
Yeah, they lost a ton of games in a row, still made the playoffs, but were a wild card team. Had to go to Tampa and kind of got blown out.
Yeah.
The team that was 10-0, 11-0.
No one expected. That was before they,
And then they bounce back this year, win the division, and get to the Super Bowl again. Look, I think it's also of like, not the pressure, but like if you're Hurts, if you're Sirianni, like
there's a lot of pressure on
you have to remember it's not easy to get to Super Bowls, right? Josh Allen's never been to one. Lamar Jackson's never been to one. Those are 2 of the best quarterbacks in football.
Saquon's first one. Like, how many more times do you have a chance to go back? Yeah.
You never know, right? Like, Dan Marino went to Super Bowl, lost it his first year, and everyone's like, oh, he's going to go back.
Granted. Like,
and then he never went back.
Yeah, that is.
It's when you're there, and the Chiefs have done a great job. They've won 3 out of the 4 Super Bowls they've been to. They're obviously going for 3 in a row, but they beat the 49ers in one of them. They lost to the Buccaneers. They beat the Eagles, and then they beat the 49ers again. So they've won 3 out of the 4. Mahomes has won 3 out of 4. he's been in, right? And they're going for the first ever three-peat in NFL history, which is a huge talking point, which is a huge conversation. But I just think if you lose to the same team 2 out of the last 3 years in the Super Bowl, it's
starts going down. And there's not much better than the Eagles team can get. This is like they got Saquon, they got that running back. Like this is
they
this
have
is the
a
best
young defensive line, young secondary. Like this is the time.
And then, so I have a question for you regarding like the Kansas City offense. We've been saying it's not up to par what we used to see. Like in this game, considering if the Chiefs do well, besides Travis Kelce, which receiver is like the most important to them? If they're like to the success of their offense?
I think Hollywood Brown. I think they need someone that can get open downfield consistently.
Yeah.
And I think Xavier Worthy can do that. I don't think he can do it consistently, but I think Hollywood Brown can get that, is the guy. And look, he's coming back from an injury, and it's still taking him a while to come back from his offseason injury, right? And he missed most of the regular season, but he's a guy that can get open downfield, can take the top off the defense. So can Xavier Worthy. But look, he only in 2 games played in the playoffs, he only has 3 catches for 35 yards.
Yeah.
It's been Travis Kelce. It's been Xavier Worthy. I think they need someone else because I think Xavier Worthy's going. Look, in the AFC Championship game, the Bills' best corner goes down really early in the game with a concussion. Like Christian Benford gets a concussion. He's their best corner. He goes down really early, and it kind of opened up the field for Xavier Worthy and Travis Kelce, right? We can't predict injuries, right? We're not going to predict injuries, but Eagles with Cooper DeJean, Quinion Mitchell, and Darius Slay, that's a really tall task for a rookie in Xavier Worthy, right? I expect Travis Kelce to succeed.
But you could also say the other way for Quinion Mitchell and
true, but rookie on rookie, I'm canceling you out, right? That's what I'm doing here. Hollywood Brown has to win. He's the veteran. He's the guy that they got in this offseason because they needed another dynamic weapon. He's the guy that has to win. So to answer your question, I would say Hollywood Brown.
For me, I was thinking originally Hollywood Brown, but then I'm thinking, I think it might be D-Hop because here's a guy like he has 1 reception in the playoffs, and I feel like Andy Reid always
for 11 yards.
Yeah, Andy Reid always like finds a way to use a guy that because the Eagles are just shut down Kelce, just make sure Xavier Worthy doesn't have any big runs or trick plays. And then Hollywood Brown's coming back, but I feel like D-Hop hasn't been talked about. He could go up, make that play, that he could jump over anyone, catch over anyone. I think he's due for at least a big touchdown or a big play in this game.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Forget about Juju as well.
Yeah, Juju's has 2 catches for 60 yards. Are you concerned about Kansas City's run game? Look, Kareem Hunt these are the 2. They played 2 playoff games because they didn't play in the wild card round like the Eagles did. But he's had a pretty good postseason, right? 25 carries for 108 yards. That's 4.3 yards per carry. It is still Kareem Hunt, though. It's not like an elite running back. And then Pacheco's 10 carries for 30 yards. So Pacheco's been basically a non-factor. Because Eagles up front are really good, right? Like they're really good up front. Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith. Are you concerned about the Chiefs running game at all?
I wouldn't say I'm concerned because you don't need like a 100-yard rusher. And I think Kareem Hunt, he figured a way to get the yards when you need them, in my opinion. Whenever I watch the Chiefs play, 3rd and 4, he slides in there for a 4-yard gain, gets the first down. And they have so many types of ways they can run. So if they're not, let's say Kareem Hunt they keep getting stood up at the line. I feel like I trust in Andy Reid to all right, that's running up the middle is not working. Let's get Xavier Worthy out on a run around. And then it manipulates the defense to where, okay, now we'll go back and run up the middle. So I don't think the rushing game for the Chiefs is as big a deal as it is for other teams, and especially teams that play them. So no, I wouldn't say I'm concerned, honestly. Would you say you are?
No, because I kind of agree with you. They don't need to
they don't need a big
fully
rush.
run the ball. I'm afraid I'm not really afraid, but if you're the Chiefs, I'll be okay. But if you're the Chiefs and you get into you're facing a really good secondary and the Eagles are kind of shutting you down to the pass game, can you run the ball? That's the biggest thing. Like sometimes you need to run the ball. I agree. You don't have to have 100-yard rusher. You need the threat of having a 100-yard rusher or have a threat of having a good rushing attack. I think the Chiefs can do it. I think they're fine. I don't think it's as big of a concern as people maybe are alluding to, but I think it's a fine thing.
And I mentioned to you before. You mentioned like rookies. Like I don't know, like the Eagles rookie corner. Obviously, have Darius Slay, who's been proven there for many years, but their rookies, like they're going against an Andy Reid offense in the Super Bowl. They're going to see so many different looks that they never saw. They've been preparing for it. They think they know every look the Chiefs are giving them. I feel like they'll slip up a couple times. However, they are very good, but I think this is a very tough task for them and tough to ask them to be an elite corner in this game.
How big for you? And we'll get to our predictions after this, and let us know, guys, in the comment section who you guys got, Chiefs or Eagles. But one final talking point here is the three-peat, right? And I mentioned it a couple minutes ago. And the Chiefs are looking to be the first team ever in the Super Bowl era. People on Twitter, it happened before the Super Bowl era, but in the Super Bowl era, the first team ever to win 3 Super Bowls in a row. How big of a thing is that, you think, for the Chiefs and for in general?
You're cementing they're already in the history books at this point of the team, but you're cementing yourself as like, oh, we're the best team to ever. Like that's what they're thinking. Like, oh, we're the best team to ever play. Like it gets to you, but like
obviously in the game they're not talking about that, but like it's more of an outside looking kind of thing.
I think it's huge. It's something that even Tom Brady can do with his teams. That's kind of how you look at it. It's more like
Joe Montana never did it.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You think more about the quarterbacks when you talk about that.
True.
So like, I think it's a bigger deal for Mahomes rather than the Chiefs, if that makes sense.
Yeah, if you're a Patriots fan, you're rooting for the Eagles this week.
Oh yeah. A lot. If you're a fan of a lot of teams, you're rooting. No one's rooting for the Chiefs. I feel like
you.
I don't know. We'll find out.
Oh, your score prediction could be different than who you're rooting for.
Well, oh yeah, that's true. I am rooting for the Chiefs.
Okay. Yeah. I'm rooting for. I hope both teams lose. That'd be a nice little.
Fair, but on like you talking about the three-peat.
Yeah.
What team do you? Because Chiefs are going for a three-peat. You're talking about Eagles lost to the Chiefs 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Who has more pressure in this game?
Oh, the Eagles.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, it's not even close.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Eagles have a lot more pressure.
The three-peat is awesome. It's cool.
You've done it 2 years before, like
Jordan Bulls did it right a couple times. I think
the
Lakers do it with Kobe and
Shaq.
Right? Like it's a thing. It's awesome. You won 3 out of the last 4. No, they've won 3 Super Bowls out of 4 appearances heading into it.
Yeah.
Right? Andy Reid's won 3. Mahomes has won 3. The Chiefs have won 3 out of the 4 Super Bowls they've been to. Right, and in between that was the Rams Bengals Super Bowl. Besides that, Chiefs been in 4 out of the last 5 Super Bowls and have won 3 out of the last 5 Super Bowls. Right?
Yeah.
Eagles are making their second one. They already lost to the Chiefs 2 years ago. Like, you haven't won one yet. I think it's the team. And look, there's some players in the Chiefs that haven't won one yet. Right? Like guys that just showed up: Hollywood Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, rookies, Xavier Worthy,
many guys,
many guys. Right? Mahomes, Andy Reid. I'm talking about more like the top tier guys: Chris Jones, Travis Kelce.
The identity of the team.
It is more important for the Eagles. There's more pressure on the Eagles this weekend. There is. I don't know. I feel like the Chiefs will be back. They'll be in contention.
Like, you didn't get the three-peat.
Yeah, Crimea River. Like that's Crimea River. No offense. Look, it's awesome. It's awesome. It's NFL history, but you still would have won. You would have made Super Bowls, including this one, 5 out of the last 6, and you would have won 3 in those 5 appearances. That's what it would have been.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Eagles, and you go 0 for 2. You start thinking, crap, do we even ever get back again? So I agree. I think the Eagles. Score predictions. JR,
Yeah.
comment down below, people. Who you guys got, Chiefs or Eagles? Spread is right now 1.5. So give me your score prediction. Who was winning? And then obviously, are they covering
Yeah.
either way?
So I was debating a lot about I've kind of just put together a score, but I was debating, is it going to be a high scoring game or a low scoring game? Because with these two teams, you never know. Good defenses. Eagles run heavy, take the time off the clock. But it's going to be fairly high scoring game. It's going to be a high scoring game. Chiefs 31, Eagles 28. 3 point. It's going to be a close game. And Chiefs cover the spread. The spread was what?
1.5 Chiefs.
Yeah. So they win by 3. 31-28.
So when I talked about last week, 2 weeks ago, when I did the championship round preview, and when I was talking about Eagles Commanders, when I was picking Eagles Commanders, and I said it's a roster game. I said it a lot when I did the college football podcasts. So Ohio State or whoever it was, Penn State versus SMU was a roster game. Penn State's roster is way better than SMU's roster.
Mm-hmm.
I said Eagles Commanders was a roster game. Eagles roster way better than Commanders, and I said the Commanders had the better quarterback, but I picked the Eagles. The Eagles, it's not crazy, have the better roster in this game. Eagles have the better team from top to bottom, in my opinion. They win the roster game. The difference is they're missing the two most important things. The Chiefs have the better coach, and the Chiefs have the better quarterback. So with that being said, I have a lower scoring game than you do. I don't think it gets the 30s. I have the Chiefs covering, and I have the Chiefs winning 24-21. So I have the 3-point game.
So you think it's gonna be close as well?
I think it's gonna be nail biter. But going back to my point, I think the Eagles have the better roster. I really do. I think the Eagles have the better team.
I can see that.
When the two most important things, JR, are your head coach and your quarterback, and the Chiefs win in both those categories. And a lot of times when you win those, you kind of usually win the football game. Because going back to like Eagles Commanders, I don't think Hurts is better than Jaden Daniels or was playing better than Jaden Daniels. I think Sirianni is probably better than Dan Quinn, but Dan Quinn's been to a Super Bowl as well. But that was a roster game, right? Yeah. I think I think it's roster games and sometimes, but I think roster games doesn't always matter if you don't have the better quarterback and you don't have the better coach.
That's fair.
Because I think 2 years ago, the Eagles might have had the better roster too.
Yeah, 2 years ago. Yeah.
I think they have the better roster right now.
The Chiefs' defense wasn't what it was.
No, I think the Eagles have the better roster. They have the better defense. They have the better weapons. They have the better running back. They have the better offensive line, in my opinion. They just don't have the better quarterback or coach. I'm not saying it's crazy difference. Running back, but I'm not saying like the Eagles.
I wouldn't say, I would give you the Eagles better roster, but it's like they're up. Both teams are up there, like all around.
Of course. It's not. I think the Eagles roster compared to the Commanders roster was a little bit more.
Oh, yeah, that's
especially the Commanders defense compared to the Eagles offense and the Commanders defense versus the Eagles defense. That was a little bit more lopsided. So that point is a little bit more true when I was talking about that game. But sick.
And who do you got as the MVP?
So we were looking at it before. Mahomes is plus 105 on the open market, right? So it's most likely if you win the game, you win MVP, right? Like your team. I don't think they really ever done that.
Especially like on that team. I feel like
I would say it's like it has to be Mahomes.
Take someone besides Mahomes.
I gotta look at the odds. Let's see. Odds to win Super Bowl MVP. Super Bowl MVP betting odds. Okay.
I think you picked Travis Kelce because we did the kind of a similar thing last year.
What we did,
pick someone besides the quarterback kind of thing, or you just went bold, something like that.
2 years ago, I went Von Miller.
Yeah.
So Mahomes is plus 120, Barkley's plus 260, Hurts is plus 350, Kelsey's plus 1,500, and then Xavier Worthy's plus 2,800.
Okay.
How about Trent McDuffie?
Oh, all right.
Oh, what about Chris Jones?
Yeah.
Chris Jones is. I don't know. It doesn't even say.
It's just going to be tough because their offensive line is so good, and he's got to get probably two 2 or 3 sacks, which you could do.
Chris Jones is plus 6,600.
It's a good money right
So
there.
the best, it's Mahomes for the Chiefs. It's Mahomes at plus 120. Then it's a huge drop off to Kelsey at plus 1,600.
Yeah.
And then it's Worthy at plus 4,000. Chris Jones at plus 6,600.
Worthy is the.
And then Kareem Hunt at plus 7,000. If you like Hollywood Brown, he's at plus 12,500. You can bet Carson Wentz if you want, plus 25,000.
I'll go Xavier Worthy
At plus 4,000.
Yeah, that's my pick.
And if the Eagles win, right? We both did not pick the Eagles, but the Eagles win. Barkley's plus 250.
They're closer together.
You have two guys closer, and then it drops again.
Oh, okay.
Barkley's plus 250. Hurts plus 375. And then it's AJ Brown plus 3,500.
See, I would go probably in my head Barkley, Brown, and then Hurts.
Hurts at plus. So then if you think that, Brown's at plus 3,500.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And then it's Devontae Smith at plus 95, Jalen Carter, Zach Bond at plus 12,000.
Hurts
doesn't have that.
Zach Bond could have the defensive one.
I don't hate the Hurts plus 375.
I don't hate it, but I feel like honestly, if they win, it's gonna be Saquon. Let's be honest.
So then at Saquon's plus 250 right now.
Yeah, but then if it's not Saquon,
you're better off just betting. I have a
Brown.
question, right? If you think the Eagles are going to win, right, and the Eagles on the money line is plus 102, you're better off just betting Saquon Barkley at plus 250 to win MVP as your Eagles winning bet.
See, this is why I guess this guy runs underdog.
Right?
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree.
And Ray, if you think the Chiefs are going to win, you better off just betting Mahomes at plus 120.
It's just because that if they do win,
there's more factors. Tactically, if the Eagles win, Barkley doesn't have to win MVP.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, if the Eagles win,
yes.
Because Saquon.
Look, if the Chiefs, if you're just bet Mahomes, if you think the Chiefs are winning, just bet Mahomes at plus 120 as your pick.
I think that one's different though, because as we've seen, like I guess
they might, Jared, because of what you're gonna say, they might just give it to Mahomes. There's not enough other guys that might contribute. It might be Kelsey for 45 yards, and then Hollywood Brown for 40 yards, and then Worthy for 50 and a touchdown. Right. That's not an MVP.
Runs for 60 yards.
That's not an MVP. The Eagles, there's more of a chance of one or two guys having a monster game than
I agree. Yeah,
and I don't look. Tyreek Hill's not on the Chiefs, and this isn't prime Travis Kelce. So
I agree.
Yeah, let us know who you guys also got in your Super Bowl MVP if you care to share. Jared, appreciate you coming back on. Feel good to be back.
Good to be back. Yeah.
And you promised to come down for the U.S. Open episode.
Yeah.
Because
I'm going for the three-peat.
Jared is going for the three-peat. He picked Brooks Koepka 2 years ago. Last year, Bryson DeChambeau. So he's picked it 2 years in a row. And look, golf content is not going away, right? Masters, all that kind of stuff. I'll be giving you guys my top 20 picks. Do I do top 20? Whatever. My top 20, top 10, top 5 winner. We'll have a lot of fun stuff with the golf content. Maybe more NBA content if freaking Kevin Durant gets traded, or if LeBron gets LeBron's not getting traded, but I don't know. No one's safe in the NBA anymore. So if a team relocates in the next 2 days, you never know. Crazy stuff can happen. We'll do that. Obviously, we'll do some baseball stuff as well. Spring training's right around the corner. Opening days in March. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, NFL draft stuff we'll do as well. So maybe any big free agency and NFL trades we'll do as well. We'll just hop on and do it. But yeah, a lot of stuff coming your way. As always, follow us on X or on Instagram at Talking Sports PD and Underdog Fantasy. Use code TSB for a 100% deposit match up to $100. The big game is on Sunday. Make sure you guys go check out everything that they're offering at Underdog Fantasy. Link is in the description, and make sure you guys use code TSP. Jared, anything else you got to say, or we're gonna get out of here?
Yeah, enjoy the game.
Yeah, should be a great game. It's a 1.5 point spread. They're telling you it's going to be a great game.
It's going to be. Chiefs always play it close.
Yes,
no matter what game they're in, win or lose, play it close. We
both have the Chiefs. Jared has the Chiefs winning by 3, 34-31. Is that what you said? Or
31-28.
31-28. I have the Chiefs winning by 3 as well, 24-21. That is going to do it for us. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Drop a like, comment, and subscribe. Appreciate everyone that tunes in. Appreciate everyone that tuned into our NBA episode last week. Hopefully you guys enjoy the weekend, enjoy the big game. Get on over to Underdog Fantasy. Link is in the description. Enjoy the weekend. We'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.